Welcome to Just Minding My Business Radio, where we are moving at the speed of God, learning what we didn't know we didn't know. I'm your host, Ida Crawford.
And I'm your co-host, Ruth Haskins.
So grab a pen and paper and get ready for information that you can use.
Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media, LLC. Paige Arnof-Fenn is the founder and CEO of global branding and digital marketing firm Mavens and Moguls, based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Her clients include Microsoft, Virgin, the New York Times Company, Colgate, venture-backed startups, as well as nonprofit organizations. She graduated from Stanford University and Harvard Business School. Paige serves on several boards, is a popular speaker and columnist who has written for Entrepreneur and Forbes. Welcome, Paige.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes, welcome, Paige. So, how did you get on this road? I gotta go there.
Well, it's been a long, circuitous route. So, when I graduated from college in the 80s, Michael Douglas had just won the Oscar for the movie, the first Wall Street movie that he starred in. And I saw that movie and got hooked. So I went to Wall Street right after college and committed to a 2-year financial analyst program. And it was a wild ride, crazy, just like the movie. They paid really well, but I didn't really like the work that much. And the lifestyle was completely insane. So after those 2 years, I went back and got an MBA, and I completely switched gears. I took a marketing class in business school, and I did really well in it. And I got a summer internship at Procter & Gamble in Cincinnati. And P&G is probably the most recognized consumer products marketing company in the world. They make everything from Crest toothpaste to Pampers diapers and Bounty paper towels and Pantene. So they have a lot of great brands. And so I did marketing for the summer between first and second year in business school. Mm-hmm. And I was hooked. I loved marketing. And I went back to P&G after business school. And I worked there for about 3 more years. And then I worked at Coca-Cola as the assistant chief marketing officer. And that was great too. But then when the internet started taking off, I got hooked because I just thought it looked really cool. And that's where the action was. So I quit my big corporate cushy marketing job at Coke and I joined a startup out in Los Angeles. And it was like Internet 1.0. It was 1997 and it was fasten your seatbelt. We raised about $40 million. A lot of it was spent on marketing. We went public in 1999. We were sold to Yahoo. And then I did another startup as the head of marketing. And they got sold, and another startup as the head of marketing, and they went public and they got sold. So it was just a wild ride. But then 9/11 happened, and that put a screeching halt to everything marketing. I mean, y'all probably remember everybody panicked after 9/11. They wanted to conserve their cash. They were worried it would be hard to raise money again. So all the marketing jobs just dried up immediately. But because I had run marketing at 3 successful startups that were all venture-backed, the VCs and the private equity guys started, coming out of the woodwork and said, we need help. I mean, things are really confusing after 9/11. We fired all the marketing people, but you know what you're doing. Can you come and help us? So I had people who I had worked with in my career that were great. I had projects that needed marketing help, and I put them together. And I called the women the marketing mavens and the guys the marketing moguls. And we built a website over a weekend and hung out our shingle, and we hit the ground running. And I've been at it ever since. So that's 21 years ago that I started my business.
Wow.
Fabulous.
That is awesome. And what an impressive journey. You were destined for marketing.
Well, I think all the roads kind of converged into, every relationship, all my experience, it all kind of culminated in this career path. And, when I was a student in college and business school, I thought I was going to be Meg Whitman or Ursula Burns. Like I thought I was going to be a Fortune 500 CEO. And that was the path I started on at P&G and at Coke. But it felt kind of too corporate and too hierarchical. And when all those internet companies started to explode, it was just more fun and entrepreneurial and scrappy. And things just moved so quick. I just jumped on the train and never got off.
Yeah. That corporate sometimes can, it's just the feel, is not always right for everybody.
It's a great place to start because they train you so well. And those are such good names to put on your resume because companies know that you've worked for successful businesses. And places like P&G and Coke, they really invest in their people. They train them, they develop them, they send them to, P&G had something called P&G College and Coke had Coca-Cola University, and they had all this professional development. And so they really invested in me and taught me. I always joke that I got my MBA at Harvard, but I got my PhD in marketing at Procter & Gamble. And my postdoctorate was at Coca-Cola. So it was just continuing education. I learned so much about marketing working for world-class brands.
Yeah, so we are happy that you're here to share some of that knowledge and wisdom. So for businesses out there, especially startups or people that might be struggling, trying to figure out this thing called marketing, what are some of the main tips that you can share with us today?
So the biggest tip that I hear from clients and people that I run into is, I've heard about marketing and branding, but I'm just me and my company's so little. I'm not really a brand. I mean, I'm not Beyonce. I'm not Tom Brady. I'm not LeBron James. I'm not Taylor Swift. I'm not really a brand. And the truth is today, everybody's a brand. You're a brand. I'm a brand. And I think if we've learned anything these past 3 years with COVID, you don't exist if you can't be found online. I mean, the world just changed a lot over the last 3 years. And before anybody returns your phone call or invites you to be on their podcast or wants to set up a meeting or a coffee date, they're going to Google you and see, who is this person?
Yes.
Is it worth my time to return the phone call? Do I want to have lunch with them? Let me check them out on LinkedIn. Let me see if we know people in common. That's just the way business gets done today. And so you have to know that if people are Googling you, what are they finding? What's going to come up? Is it stuff that you're going to be proud of that builds the story that you want to tell? Or is there going to be a bunch of digital dirt out there that is not something that's particularly flattering? And with a name like mine, if you Google me and my company, it's really me. If your name is Jane Smith and you work for a generic named business, there could be a lot of confusion. They may not know if it's really you. But with me, it's really me. And so, I work with a lot of small businesses today just to make sure that they understand everybody's a brand. And you have a lot of control over the messages that you put out there and how people think about you, talk about you. And, with all these social media platforms, I think a lot of people feel pressure like, oh, I need to be everywhere. I should be blogging. I should be tweeting. I need to be on all these platforms. The truth is, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's good advice. I think you should pick the platforms that are the most authentic to you. If you like to tweet, that's great. If you like to blog, that's great. But if you set up a blog and then the first week you have 3 blog postings, and then the next week there are 2, and then the next week you got busy, and then the next week you got 1, and then you forgot about it for a few weeks because you were traveling, you're not really training your audience to be a trusted brand. You're going to look flaky. You're not going to look consistent. And if on LinkedIn, you look really professional, and on Twitter, you're snarky and kind of, a little acerbic personality. And then on Facebook, you've got your spring break photos. Like, what person's going to show up at the meeting? Is it the funny person? Is it the nasty person? Is it the fun person? Is it the buttoned up person? So building a brand is about being consistent so that people know who you are, what you stand for, and that they want to do business with you. People like to do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
you have to plant those seeds and drop those breadcrumbs so that it leads to a consistent place.
Yes, I agree. Consistency, consistency, consistency. If you can only do it once a month, people will be looking forward to that.
Right. You can do a monthly newsletter and just tell people, I'm going to be dropping this at the beginning or the 15th or what at the end of every month. And then you live up to those promises. A brand is a promise. If it's going to be weekly or bi-weekly, that's fine too. But you can't, if you promise something, you have to deliver what you promise, because that's the brands that I think are going to be successful in the future are the ones that live up to the promises that they make.
Yes.
Looking at the future and people who keep their promises, that's kind of how everything got started. People knew that you could buy, Ivory soap. It was a trusted name. You knew immediately, this floating soap was 99.9% pure. And it's interesting, even though we've gone into the internet, that is still a principle that exists.
Absolutely. Those old rules still apply. And the fact that you remember that branding and that advertising and those marketing messages, that is proof. When I was in school, I had a marketing professor that said, marketing is everything and everything is marketing. And I used to kind of laugh and roll my eyes. But now that I've been doing this for 30 years, I think he's absolutely right. I mean, if you go to McDonald's in Tokyo, in Paris, in New York City, in Cleveland, Ohio, in Pennsylvania, in Washington, D.C., whether it's Starbucks or McDonald's, you know what to expect. If you order a Big Mac, if you order a Frappuccino, you know what you're getting. That brand has made a promise and a commitment that experience is going to be identical everywhere in the world. And that's what people want. They want a consistent brand, consistent message, and consistent experience. So, if you walked into one in Cleveland and a different one in Kansas City and a different one in Boston, and it was different everywhere, that would be very confusing. And the customer wouldn't know what to expect. And then they'd say, wait a minute, when I had it in my hometown, it didn't taste like this. It didn't look like this. Why do you do it this way? Then, you're having a conversation you don't really want to have with your customer. You just want to surprise and delight them with a wonderful product, a wonderful service, and a great experience. That is what marketing and branding are all about.
Wow. That was definitely plain, clear, and understandable. Some people try to abstract it, and they think they need all these bells and whistles. And you just need to be authentic and to do what you say you're going to do.
Bingo. Yeah. Marketing, yes, there are a lot of new tools and technologies. And there are going to be new social media platforms in the future. But the basics are today are the basics from 100 years ago when Coca-Cola, started, when these brands came to be. They just reinforce the same messages, the same things. And you can't stand for 10 things. You have to figure out what are the 1, 2, maybe 3 things you want to be known for. What real estate do you want to own in your customer's brain? So if they have a problem, they think of you first if you're the product or service that can solve that problem. And so every touch point, Everything you do online, offline, needs to reinforce those simple messages. The website copy, the brochures, your business card, your tagline, everything should reinforce those core messages. If you spread yourself too thin and you've got different messages everywhere, again, people can't remember that much. It's confusing and they don't know which version, who are you? What do you stand for? You got to remember when Amazon started, they were the world's biggest bookseller. That's all they did was they sold books, because back then buying anything on the internet was kind of scary. It's hard to remember now, but you had to put your credit card in and they were going to send you a book. And that's all they did. And they built their brand and they built their trust as the world's biggest bookseller. And then once people got used to that and they had a relationship, they started selling music. Remember, they were selling CDs. And then, they kept adding things slowly. Well, today, I mean, you buy everything in your life at Amazon. They have your credit card number. They deliver to your house.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Like, you trust them, but they have built that trust from the ground floor. Think about Oprah. When she started, she was a news person. Then she was a talk show host. Then she had a book club. And now she's got a magazine and a podcast and, her omni, media world, her Harpo Productions. But she didn't start there. She built it over decades. Her reputation grew, and every promise she made, it worked. Every promise she fulfilled, people trusted her and loved her. And that is how you build a great brand that transcends different products and services and different generations. And that's how people follow you. That is why they come back over and over and over. But you can't start with everything. You got to put your stake in the ground and build that trust from literally your first step.
Yes. Wow.
Lots of great.
Lots of great.
Thank you.
Love
Thank
it.
you.
Love it. And people get in contact with you if they want to work with you.
So the two best things, my website, mavensandmoguls.com, mavensandmoguls.com, and then LinkedIn. So I'm not on all social media, but I love LinkedIn. Some friends of mine from college started it. And again, with a name like mine, I'm pretty easy to find, Paige Arnof-Fenn. And even though my last name is hyphenated, on LinkedIn, it's all smushed together. So Paige, Arnoffenn. And as one of my clients said, because the name of my company is a little complicated with the ampersand and my last name is hyphenated. She says, sometimes I forget. All I remember is Paige and Mavens, and I Google it and you pop right up. So thank God for search engine optimization, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Excellent. All right. This is information that we just need.
Yeah.
There's so many of us who are starting businesses or have been doing business, and we can't figure out why we can't get the foothold. And
there are a lot of basics. And if you go to my website, I've got tons of articles and videos for free, so you can check them out. But yeah, it's not hard, but you have to have a plan, you have to have a strategy, and you have to execute it flawlessly. If you just start small and build as you go, you can get there. It's not rocket science, but you just have to be committed to it.
And I know in looking over people that I dealt with maybe 10 years ago or so on the internet, if I go back to them now, I see that their web pages have not been updated. They've basically given up, and it does take commitment and it's hard work, and I think there came a point where everyone thought that, oh, that's all I had to do is jump on the internet with whoever I happen to be, and my business is going to blossom. And it's not that way at all.
No.
And many
No,
people
there
have,
are no silver bullets. There's
there are
no
no
magic
silver
wand.
bullets. It's
It takes
work.
work.
Yes.
It
Can't
takes
get
work.
around the work.
Yeah. There's no silver bullets. This is not a fairy tale. This is real, the real deal. You got to put in the work.
And then I think sometimes people look at successful people and they look on the outside and they just see things, but they don't
Yes.
realize these people probably had blood, sweat, tears, and more blood, sweat, and tears.
You got that right. No, we started, like I said, right after 9/11. And about 3 years after we started, Harvard Business School wrote 2 cases on my company as a model of success, which was really flattering. And people said to me, "Oh my God, you're like an overnight sensation." And I thought, I don't feel that way. I feel like I've been working for 2 decades. And like I said, but if you're talking to somebody that won an Oscar or a Tony or an Olympic gold medal, nothing happens overnight. There are no overnight sensations. These are people that started when they were young and they sang and they danced and they ran and they played ball and they worked their way up the food chain and they train hard every day. And that's how you do it. There are no shortcuts. There are a lot of detours, but in my experience, I haven't found any shortcuts. It's just a lot of hard work and just delivering day in and day out. And then people show up because they believe you. They're going to buy from you. They're going to trust you.
Yes, absolutely. Show up.
Just show up and make yourself a brand. You are the brand. It's funny because as we've been talking and I mentioned Ivory, I realized that sometimes I actually am humming old commercials. Has that ever happened to you? And all of a sudden you're like, where did that come from?
No, it's like I can't remember what
brain.
I had for dinner last night, but I can sing a song from the 70s when I was a kid and watching those commercials on TV. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It is. They just stuck in your mind. You can't get rid of that. And that's really what we want to have happen in our marketing, to become so known, maybe not to the world, but to a specific group of people that, like, as you said, when they think of what they need, they think of us.
Right. You own that space in their brain. And whether they need it or a friend of theirs or a family says, I'm having this problem. And you go, oh, I know what you should get. I know who you should talk to. And that's free. Like that's a free referral. That's, that is money in the bank, because if enough people tell that person, this is the product or service that'll solve that problem, they're going to go do it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's like repetition, repetition is important, in terms of getting that real estate, like you said, in the brain,
And a lot of people form their habits when they're young, like they buy the same brands their parents bought. Or when they first move out on their own for college or their first job, their first apartment, and they start buying something and, it just becomes part of their routine. And so to get them to change those habits, it's hard. So if you can get people young and get them on the conveyor belt, they can stay with you their whole life.
Exactly. I want to ask you something about taglines. How do you really go about that?
So you start with market research. I mean, again, I started my career at Procter & Gamble, and P&G just drills into you. It's not what you think, what I think, what your friends or parents or neighbors think. It's what does the customer think? So you have to really dig into what is unique, special, and different about your brand versus the competitive landscape. What is that real estate that you own? What is special about you? And find just a couple of words that stand out, that really help you capture that and lock that in. So our tagline for my company is because marketing matters. And so Mavens and Moguls doesn't tell you what we do, or, a lot of people don't know what a Maven or a Mogul is. But because the tagline is because marketing matters, that kind of tells you, all right, these are marketing people. And the truth is, when people have a marketing problem, I want them to think of me first. Now, once we get in there and we fix the problem, the truth is, I've been in business for decades, and I've been involved in sales and human resources, and I've, run businesses before. And once we get our kind of nose under the tent, we can help on a lot of different areas. But again, just like what we said about Amazon, you got to start somewhere. So if we can build a relationship and earn that trust with a marketing project, once we finish, if I say to the CEO, your organizational development plan could really use some work. And I don't know if you've ever thought about this, or, have you done any professional development or sales training? Because I think your marketing would be even better if you added these other pieces. And the CEO goes, wow, I never thought of that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Could you help us do that? I said, sure. And he said, well, that's so funny because I really only thought of you as marketing. But again, that's how you build that connection and trust and relationship. But once you earn that and you get them, solve that problem, then you can help them in a lot of other ways. So, when your tagline, it doesn't have to tell everything. You don't want to, it should be something that could just fit on a business card, on a headline. It can't be an honors thesis. I can't read a paragraph. I just want a couple of words that tell you less is more when it comes to taglines.
Okay, that was very helpful.
It's always a challenge because a lot of clients come to me and they want to tell me about all their bells and whistles and all the fancy features. And that's great. But at the end of the day, what your customer cares about is the benefit to them. What's in it for them? So don't tell me about, we've got this and we can do that. And, it's like the bag of tricks. People get so excited and it's like, how are you helping me? What problem are you solving? Is this faster, easier, more convenient, cheaper? What's the hook? How are you making my life better? And if you can answer that question, that's what your customer is going to care about. The bells and whistles are fine, but only after you fix my problem.
Wow, Paige. You've been hitting it right on the nose and dropping all of these gems. I'm hoping everybody really take note. Definitely.
Well, you set yourself up for success.
Yes, absolutely. So again, how do companies reach out to you for your services?
So the website, mavensandmoguls.com, MAVENSANDMOGULS, or LinkedIn, Paige Arnof-Fenn, or just Google Paige and Mavens and I'll pop right up. No, and like I said, if anyone was listening and started with us and said, oh, but I'm not really a brand, it doesn't apply to me. I hope I've convinced you you're a brand and you need to pay attention, and marketing really does matter. It can help you stand out from your competition. It helps you get remembered, and it really matters.
Yes.
I would love to have more of a conversation with you, because this is so important. So many people are really sitting back and who are listening to this and thinking, I really don't know what marketing is. I don't know what marketing is. I thought I did, but yes, all those things that she gave, I kind of skipped over all of those.
Well, if you go to my website, I've got a lot of articles and I talk about some really good marketing books out there. Okay. And for startups, for students, if you go to the article section, you'll see lots of advice and ideas. And like I said, it's all free to click on. So feel free to spend time on it.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Paige. We appreciate you stopping by and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. We would love to have you back.
Well, thank you all so much. This has been a lot of fun. I could talk forever and I really appreciate it.
Okay, we could listen forever.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Thank you for tuning in to Just Minding My Business Radio. I'm your host, Ida Crawford.
And I'm your co-host, Ruth Haskins.
We hope you enjoyed the show and appreciate you stopping by. Many blessings to you and yours.